Yeah, so this event will be recorded. And welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming. To access recordings of past artist talks we posted, you can go to the Arts Collective page on the Howard Center website. We've held these virtual artist talks for the past couple of years, and our next talk will be with Alea Aguilar in October. And so just a quick note on the structure of today's talk. There will be plenty of time to ask questions, but we do ask that everyone keeps their questions and comments brief so that everyone has a chance to talk if they would like to. And now I want to introduce our guest artist, Susan Larkin. Susan Larkin is an award-winning landscape painter who makes her home in the Lake Champlain Islands in Vermont. She works in oil and pastel and has been painting full-time for over 15 years. Susan holds a BFA from Maine College of Art and an MAT from Bennington College. She has taught art at many age levels, from preschoolers to adults, and currently offers painting workshops and drawing and painting classes for groups and private students. Her work can be found in many public and private collections. Her paintings were chosen for the set design in the 2017 film It Comes at Night, directed by independent filmmaker Trey Edward Schultz. Susan has been named a 2020 Legacy Artist at the Bryan Memorial Gallery in Jeffersonville, Vermont. And Susan has been named one of the 2020 Vermont Artists to Watch by the Vermont Arts Council and the Vermont Arts Guide, an annual survey of contemporary Vermont artists. And we're really excited to have her with us today. Thank you so much for coming, Susan. And I'm going to hand it off to you now.
Okay, well, thank you for the invitation. It's you just having here you read all that stuff made me feel a lot better about myself than than I usually do, because we always forget the good, the good stuff, and we just are hard on ourselves, I think. Well, at least I am. And anyway, so yeah, you know my name, you know some of my my history. I've been painting full time. I was saying earlier, since I moved to Isle of Mont, when, as an artist, you're always, you pretty much have to have another job most of the time. And so I've spent a lot of my life teaching and, I don't know, working in delis, all kinds of things. If I tried to list all my jobs, it would be several pages long. But anyway, so in 2007, I moved to Isle of Mont. And we used to live in Bennington, Vermont, and I always loved coming up to the islands we used to come camping with our kids and stuff like that. And my husband's job kind of changed. He was working for the Department of Corrections, and the guy he was working with died suddenly, and he was doing groups for violent offenders. And so he took over the Burlington and St. Albans groups. So he was going back and forth to Bennington and up here. And I really hated my teaching job at that time. I was teaching middle school art, and it was really tough.
No.
It was just really tough. It was really, I pity any teacher now, because I know it's probably worse than it was then. And so I just said, we always talk about living up there. Our kids were out of the house. I said, we always talk about moving up there. Why don't we just move up there, and you can work half the week, a week, a month in Bennington instead. So we did, and he gradually just transferred all his work up here. He doesn't work for the Department of Corrections any longer. He works now for the Department of Health, doing kind of the same thing, contract work. And so that was my lucky break. And I tried to find teaching jobs, but by then, if a teacher retired, we kept hearing these things, well, how are these teachers going to retire? There's going to be a lot of jobs because teachers are retiring. Well, no, they eliminated positions, of course, in schools for art and music. And so it was hard to find a job. And that's when I started painting full time. And it was working. So, I started exhibiting a little bit and selling more and getting into this gallery or that gallery. So my husband finally just said, why don't you just paint? Because that's what you like to do. And I said, yeah, that works for me. I was very lucky that this all happened, and he's been very supportive. So since that time, I've been painting full time and gradually kind of growing kind of an art business and reaching out to galleries and things like that, entering shows. And it takes a lot of time. It's hard work. But I really like it. It's what I would, I always say it's what I would do for free, which I have done for free for many years. And so I'm very, very fortunate to have the opportunity I have now. I'm just very fortunate for that. And so I'm trying to think if there's anything else you need to know about me. Oh, I work in oils. I work in oil paints on canvas and canvas panels. I used to do pastels more, but I have some breathing problems and the dust was really bad. And if there's anything you want to know in the Q&A about, what materials I use or what I suggest for, paints and, things like that, brushes and paints and everything. I always tell students to buy the most expensive paints you can afford, whatever you can, or the best, materials you can afford. Not everybody can afford top of the line paint, but don't get the Dale Brownie, the stuff they sell at Michael's, because that will just not even stick to your canvas. And so, so if you have questions about materials and that, I'm very happy to answer those. And I just, and I paint mostly landscapes. That's my interest. I paint mostly things where I'm living here in Isle of Mont and the Champlain Islands around here, because I walk a lot. I have a big dog that needs to walk every day. And I see things when I'm walking, and a lot of my paintings come out of that. I paint from both outside in person, and then I also paint studio paintings from either small paintings that I've made or photographs. But generally, I think of my work as kind of a narrative, a journal of my life, only visually. That's what I'm interested in, and so that's what I paint, is mostly landscapes from around this area. I just wanted to have a little question. I ask you a couple of questions to kind of get to know where everybody here is, what you do. And I just wanted to, if you could raise your hand if you're interested in an art career. Is anybody interested in a career? Okay.
Everyone.
Or let me think if I've got my questions written down. Do you make your work, or do you just make work for your own pleasure? Do you make your work for your own pleasure? Or do you just keep your work to yourself and is anybody not, if you don't share your work with anyone, is that anyone here doesn't share their work? Which is perfectly okay. I just want to get a grasp of what people are doing. And do you take classes? Does anybody here take classes in art and work with other artists? Okay. Because I just wanted to get a little bit of an idea of where you guys are at and what you like to do. And so the answer to all those questions is perfectly, I do all of those things. I have work that I keep for myself. That's nobody sees. I keep journals of work, sketchbooks of work. I paint for money because I have to paint. I have to pay for the paints and brushes and all that. And I like to pay myself a little bit too. And I also, and kind of in between, I share some of my work with family. It's very convenient to have for birthday and Christmas presents to have some paintings. And I paint small things. And so I think all of those questions, whatever you answer, that's fine. It doesn't matter as long as you keep working. I think that's the most important thing I would like to tell everybody is just keep doing it. It's not fun sometimes. Sometimes going in the studio is horrible. And you're just wondering why you're doing this and all of that. But I think you should practice if you like to do it. And that's the main reason I paint is because I really enjoy it. I really love making art. I have since I was a child. Kaz was asking me about that. And I used to, before I could really draw, I would bug my relatives to draw pictures for me so I could kind of copy them. And it's all I ever wanted to be. Any other job I had, I was probably good at, but I never identified it as who I am, as a teacher or whatever. I always felt I'm an artist first, and that's what I was here put on earth to do. And it's the only thing I really, I just love doing it. I'd do it if I didn't get paid. So, I think that's the bottom line. I mean, you can do it for a career, you can do it for pleasure. I hope a lot of people do it for pleasure. One of my main focuses for teaching was to give people a chance to start drawing and painting. Who there's a lot of people I know, artists who were good in high school. They were really good artists in high school. And then they had the real world kicked in and they had to get jobs and they left it behind and they never, and so, you know, in their 50s or 60s, they start working again. And I like, you know, people in Victorian era, they weren't artists, but they would go out and sketch just for fun. And I really think that's a very important, it's so good for you. It's really, you know, like playing music, it's the same thing. It's really, really good for you to have something like that where you kind of, for me, to kind of go away and get out of my head. And it's just so important. So if you have any inkling to paint, please just do. Everybody's got 20 minutes a day that they could sit down and, you know, noodle around. I don't care with a ballpoint pen or whatever, you know, just keep doing it, because it's really, really good for our mental health, and it's good for our, it's just good for society, I think, too. It makes me a more easy person to be around if I can practice every day. So, so I'd like to talk a little bit about my paintings. Sarah I sent her some images and she can screen share them, maybe one at a time, and I'll talk at you a little bit about them. Okay, so this first one, this is a place where I walk. And because I said I have this big dog and she needs to walk. And so we're out pretty much 365 days a year, unless I'm sick or something. And so there's these fields, and I walk sometimes on the west shore of Isle of Mont, where, you know, along the water, because I really like seeing the water every day. And so this painting is a winter painting. So it probably came from, I imagine, a photo, because I bring my phone when I walk and I take photos. And it's of a field. There's 3 fields in a row that I really love. And I've done a lot of paintings of them because they just, I don't know, they just capture me. And this is kind of, you know, I think about, well, what is it that I'm trying to show? What am I trying to do in these paintings? And if you have any questions, please ask questions while I'm talking so I can answer, you know, anything about whatever. Please, you know, don't hesitate to ask questions. So I'm out almost every day of the year, and I just love the changes in the landscape. Landscape just fascinates me because it's never the same. And so this painting is, you know, of course, a winter scene of that field, and I really enjoyed making it. And it's sold. It's I think it's a 20-inch, a 10-inch by 20 inches. So it's a very long painting, long, skinny painting. And I do a lot of that format because another artist had taught me that's how we see is you know, when we're looking at something, we don't see what's down here and we don't see what's up here. We see it in kind of a broad spectrum of things. And so I started doing a lot of those, and I really like them because they really give more of a view of what reality of what we are looking at. I just like the starkness of winter. I like the colors in winter and fall better than summer colors. I'm getting better about green, but there's just so much green in spring and summer that makes it hard to paint. So Sarah, you can put up the next one. Okay. So this painting is called Hold My Hand. And it's a painting that came from near the sandbar, you know, that goes from Colchester to the Champlain Islands. And I painted it during the pandemic. At the beginning of the pandemic, I painted a lot of paintings, and I was very happy to not have to go anywhere and stay home and paint. But as things went along, it got a little bit more difficult because it lasted a lot longer than anyone thought it was going to last. And it was hard. And there was a lot of turmoil in the world at the time too. There's just all this, you know, there's so many things going on. And so this was just, I saw these trees and they just looked like they were kind of comforting each other. And that's what I really felt like, you know, just, it'll be all right. You know, hold my hand, it'll be all right. And trying to keep that thought in front of me that you know, somehow things are going to work out. This isn't going to last forever. Somehow things are going to be okay. So that's where that came from. That's another oil painting. This format is a square painting. I like to do square paintings too. Which I remember my first painting teacher told me when I made square paintings, I made them because we had to make our own stretcher bars and canvases. So it was a lot cheaper to cut a 2x4 or a stretcher bar in lengths of 4 feet. And, you know, they come in 8-foot lengths. So if they were, I could use the whole thing. I didn't have any waste if I made square canvases. And so I put them up at the first crit and she said, what are these squares? You don't paint squares. Nobody paints squares. Square paintings, you know, they're kind of they break the rules, I guess. But I always like painting square formats. And they're just a challenge. That's another part of painting that's important to me, is that you can always challenge yourself. And there's no top. If you're a painter, you can always get better. You can always face challenges. And sometimes it's very frustrating. Sometimes there's a lot of failure, but the challenge is great. So this is my square painting, my pandemic painting. So I can go to the next one, Sarah. All right, so this is it's called Mud Creek in Autumn, and there's a little glare on it. I'm sorry for the glare on the left-hand side. And this is, I don't know how many of you are, you know, familiar with north of Burlington, but Route 78 goes from the islands over to St. Albans, and that's pretty much how I go to town. And Mud Creek is in Alberg, and it's a preservation site, and it's just very, very beautiful. And this painting came out of I think I was driving home from Hannaford or something, and I was going by it, and it was so lit up and so gorgeous that I had to stop the car and run into along the side of the road and take a photo of it so I could bring it home and try and paint it. This is another one of the 10 by 20 or 8 by 16 or something like that. And I just really like that form, especially for painting water, because it kind of gives you the long view. And I think the colors were just so great. And those are the colors I like the best, is golds and reds and browns and things like that for painting. And it was just a really nice day. I paint there, this Mud Creek, I paint there a lot. If you're looking this way and the view, what's behind you is another part of it, the marshland, and there's a bridge that goes across. And I just never get tired of painting there. It's just a lovely place. It's never the same twice. And it's a really nice, quiet place to paint. There's usually fishermen there. And fishermen are really nice people. They're usually pretty supportive of painters. They like, they like, so is this your job? They say, and yeah, kind of. But it's one of the favorite spots for me to paint. And it's way up by the Canadian border. So it's just kind of different up there. It's very flat. It's not Vermonty at all. So we can go to the next one, I guess. And so, yes, this is called Almost November. And this site is, it's the Goodsell Ridge Preserve here on Isle of Mott. And Isle of Mott has a ton of history. And one of the historic things is on Isle of Mott is the Chazy Reef, which is an ancient fossil reef. And the Goodsell Ridge Preserve is on this, the part of the island where the fossils are. And there was a wonderful woman, well, she's still alive, who lives on Isle of Mott, and she got bought this barn when it was just falling apart. Everybody's like, you're nuts. And she had it restored. And there's trails there. If you ever get up to the islands, it's a wonderful place to walk. There's a lot of trails. And so I walk, maybe, a lot, maybe 3 or 4 days a week on this trail with my dog, because I can let her off the leash and she can run. And I just have painted so many paintings of this barn, and in all different times of the year. And this is I like this view because this is what I see when I come out of the woods, it's mostly wooded, the trails. And when you come out, you emerge, and then you see this barn in front of you in the field. And it's just a very, it's meaningful place to me. And that's, you know, as I was talking before, I feel like my paintings are a narrative of my life, how you know, the things, my world. It's my way of communicating my world. And this is certainly a very, very important part of my world. I've walked there thousands and thousands of times and done so many paintings of this area. It's just a beautiful place, and it's quiet, and you know, I love it. It's just got all kinds of, it's the limestone part of it with fossils that you can see of all these different sea creatures. And it goes back 480 million years. That's when these fossils were created. So it really gives you kind of perspective on all our little tiny troubles that we have. And it's not, kind of makes you wake up to the fact that you're not the most important thing on earth. And yeah, it's just a really special place for me. It holds a special place. So if you ever get up to Isle of Mott, please take the time. It's on Quarry Road to go over to the Isle of Mott the Isle of Mott Goodsill Ridge Preservation Area. It's really, in the summer they have docents in the barn and to tell all the history of everything. And it's great. So I guess we can have the next slide. Oh, and this one, this is a funny painting. Quiet Water, I think is the name of this painting. And I painted it. I have some friends who have cabins in North Hero, and I like to paint where their cabins are. Sometimes I paint the buildings, and sometimes so I was on the beach, their beach it's off of Route 2. It's right on Route 2, going up through the islands. And I got home, so I painted this painting, and I got home, and on the right-hand side, there was a piece of land going out with trees on it. And there was a little house on there, a little red house. And I got home and I just looked at it and I thought, this isn't anything like what I had in my head. And I was really mad because the only part I liked was the sky. So I wiped out the bottom third of the painting and just kind of went back and painted my kind of my impression of that area without the pretty little house, and changed it. So it's changed. So I would tell these women that, you know, own the property, they came to see it in the show, and I said, yeah, this is, they're like, well, where it doesn't look anything like that. And I said, I know, had to be changed. So that's a nice thing to learn when you're doing art. You're in charge, and you can move, if you're doing landscapes, you can move trees around, and you can put anything in there you want, you know. And I always, the philosophy is like, anything that'll make the painting better, you should just do it. And sometimes you get very attached to some things in a painting, but they're not working and you have to get rid of them. I think Stephen King has a saying about kill your darlings. And when he's writing a book and you have something that's just so important to you and you love and love and love in your painting, but it doesn't work. So you have to, you know, you have to let it go. You have to get rid of it. So I really enjoyed doing this painting. So I finished it at home in the studio, and it had quite a transformation, but I thought it was a pretty successful painting. I was pretty happy with how it turned out. And it sold almost immediately. It was up at the Bryan Gallery in the show, and it sold, you know, just pretty much when the show opened. So that was a good indication that that I was on the right track. So I think, is that all of them? I don't know if there's any more.
Yeah, that's the last one.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. All right, so so I don't know what you'd like to, I mean, how many of you are painters? Do you all paint, or no?
A little bit.
A little bit, okay. And what do the rest of you do that aren't painters? What do you work in?
I
Go ahead, Marianne, did you want to say something?
I'm having a hard time understanding that. Yeah.
I do digital art.
Oh, digital art. Okay. That's really interesting. And I know a lot of artists. Go ahead.
I think that might be
somebody's radio's on in the car, I think.
Marianne, do you want to lean into your laptop and say what you were trying to say? I'll share that I do collage mostly, multimedia, mark making, and lately I've been doing a lot of jelly plate printing.
Okay, that's really interesting. That's great. What is your subjects? Are you abstract or figurative or?
Fairly abstract. I kind of try to let my well, it's not a canvas, it's a wood block, but I let it kind of speak to me and just let images emerge organically and try to go with what I see after putting different materials down. So I don't go in with an intention usually.
Okay, yeah, and I plan a lot because I really have to, I don't know, for the paintings I paint that I know are going to sell, I try and do a lot of work with composition and value and all that stuff, so principles. But the last one I showed, that's pretty much how I worked it. I just knew that the pretty scene in front of me was not what I had in mind, and I didn't want to do that. And I just went back and it kind of made it up but it was, a compilation of stuff I've seen other places or whatever. But yeah. And I also I have to say that I do a lot, not a lot, but I try to, if I have time, work in other mediums. I've just started working in gouache, which is it's a water-based medium, and but it's opaque. It's not like watercolors. And it is a bear. It's really been hard for me to figure out how to handle it. And also cold wax medium I've just started using. But I find with the cold wax medium, I'm more interested in doing more abstract things because it just works differently, and the way you build up colors and stuff. So I end up maybe starting with a kind of a image of a landscape, but then I really get into it with abstract. I paint over it with layers of abstract, and if you scrape it off, the color that's underneath it comes through, and you can really, I think it kind of clears my mind to jump into something different every once in a while, that I don't have to follow all those rules and explore.
Susan,
I'm
can I
a
ask a
hardcore
question?
rule breaker. Sorry.
Go ahead, Keisha.
I'm a hardcore rule breaker.
Yeah. That's good.
I'm gonna turn my phone around. I'm really not feeling very social, but I'm gonna show you what I live in, my apartment, and where I work.
Okay. Oh, that's a good working space.
Yeah, but
Well, if you could see, I'm in my studio, and I think it's probably 10 feet by probably 15 feet. It's a small bedroom, and it works. And, because I don't have $500 a month to pay for studio space somewhere. And you just
cost $900.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're on Pine Street or something, it's crazy. And it works. The only drawback is you have to do your work. You can't go and wash the dishes and put off working because you want to make the bed, and then because you just are not getting into your studio. You have to really get self-directed, and sometimes that can be hard. But I mean, I just make it work, and I can't do really, really big. I have a little barn on my property where in the summer I can put up big canvases on the wall and work in there, but it's really funky, and there's other things living in there with me, and I don't really like it very much. It's damp. So I just decided I'll just use this and try and, I mean, every once in a while I have to have a real clear out because it gets really crowded with stuff. But it's just so important if you are interested in doing, if you have, you want to do art, that you do it. You find a way to practice every day. And it doesn't really matter what, abstract art. I had an argument with my grandson the other day about what's the point of abstract art and blah, blah, you know, and a chimpanzee could do that and everything. And I'm just like, no, don't you hate abstract art? And I said, no, I really like abstract art. There's a lot of artists I like that do abstract work, and I do it sometimes too, just to, you know, if you're working with emotions or something like that, you want it to come through. I really feel that's important if you're painting, that or working at, you're telling a story. A artist mentor I had, just he always asked us, what's the story? You have to ask yourself foremost, what are you trying to say? What's your story? And that's what makes a painting interesting to other people, is the story. I think they want to have commonality with their experience. You know, I have a painting of water or something, and people will say, oh, that just reminds me when I used to go out on the boat with my husband. And that's what I'm looking for. That's, you know, that connection. We all are connected, and tell the story in a way that other people can relate to it. They can find an experience that they can relate to. And you can do that. And I think abstract work really is I don't know, it's not easy, abstract work, but you can really tap into emotional storytelling with abstract work in a way that you can't with figurative work. So it's, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question.
Right.
I'm actually on your website right now, looking through your pieces, and I noticed that half, if not more, probably more, it looks like are sold. They have the red dot on them. And they're mostly over $1,000. And so two questions. One is, how do you price your work? And also, like, where do you sell your work? Are you in galleries? Are you in shows? And maybe third question, just how did you get to that point of being successful in terms of marketing your work?
I started out when I first was painting, exhibiting a lot in public spaces, in cafes, restaurants. One of my best things that made me the most money was at Skinny Pancake. I had a show a number of years ago in Skinny Pancake, and this woman who was there visiting her daughter at UVM saw my work, and she got really, and she's bought like so many of my paintings. She was a real collector. So that's how I started out, was painting. I also joined the Northern Artist Art Association. I can't remember, MVAA, Northern Vermont Artist Association. And that's a group of artists. And that was very helpful. They have a show once a year. So so it was gradual. It was more and more. And then I also submitted to various competitions. You know, the MBAA had a member show every year, and it was juried, you know, and so I tried, you know, getting into juried things, which you don't always do. It can be, you have to be really pretty tough, you know, to take the rejection, just like anything else. But little by little, I would get into different shows. Another venue that I had that's been really good to me is Burlington City Arts, and they curate all around. They curate doctors' offices, but mostly at the medical center. And they have given me installations where I you know, put up things in that rotunda part. And then they had bought quite a few of my paintings. By this time, they've been really, because that gets the most traffic of any place in the area is the hospital. And so lots and lots of people see your paintings. And I think that's what you really want eventually, is you want to focus on places where a lot of people, restaurants, people are going to eat. So, you know, sales there can be sporadic. It has to be somebody who really likes your work, because they're not there to buy art. The pricing, I started out with fairly low prices. And as I started to get better and show with other artists, you realize that you have to, well, one time I decided to raise my prices one year, and I sold more paintings than ever before, because I think it gives you a legitimacy to people.
funny.
I mean, people, you know, it's just a psychological thing where people.
I've been saying that forever with the artists around me. They always do it low price, and it bugs me because I like we have college behind us, art school behind us. I just have to say I went to the same school, but it was Portland School of Art.
Oh, that's when mine was Portland School of Art too.
What year? What year?
I graduated in 77.
Okay, so I went 81.
Oh, okay, so not too far.
It was still the little tiny school.
Oh
but
my gosh,
anyways,
yeah.
I do a lot of shows, and a lot of the people I do it with, they're not doing, I guess, it for they don't have the same kind of mindset. So they're like going, "Oh, I'm gonna get $50 for this." I'm like, "No, it's gonna make mine look really ridiculous because
Well,
I gotta charge more. I buy professional paints. So I have this thing, and I always have these arguments with people about it. Like, don't underprice it because it's not helping other artists. And it's not helping yourself because people are not going to value it. But
yeah,
I also think my pricing is really low for my experience and for the paints I use, and I don't know, for the time it takes me. But I want people to have art in their house. So I have been toying with the idea of putting a bigger price on it, because when my question to you is, like, I do shows and I also do gallery stuff. So when I'm selling it myself, I can sell it to you for $200. But when I show it in the gallery, it's got to be $400 because I'm only going to get $200.
right.
So I don't want the two different prices, because somebody will be like, yeah, but it was $200 before, now it's $400 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, that's the fine line of what, having your prices across the board. Like, if on my website my painting is 500, it has to be 500 everywhere I go, unless
Yeah.
I want to put a sale price today only or whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And galleries don't like it if you undercut the prices at all, so I just keep the same prices. Sometimes people will say, well, you don't have to pay the commission. And I say, well, isn't that nice for me? I get it all for once, and I also, when I started getting into better galleries, there's people at the Bryan Gallery where I show now whose paintings are like $10,000, $35,000, and I can't keep my prices that low. I have to be, it would look ridiculous. I have to be up where the price point is of the average of people that I show with, because you don't want to undercut other artists. They don't like that.
Right.
And I know that I understand the whole thing about, you want people to be able to buy art, and I do too. I want, there's a lot of people who can't spend $500, $1,000 on a painting. One thing I do periodically, and I'll probably do it again this year, is I have a lot of old paintings that never sold for whatever reason, and they're still good paintings. There's some that are dogs, and so I get rid of those. But the ones that are still pretty good paintings, I take them out of their frames, and I have a retired painting sale. And I really discount them, deep discounts, at those, because they're never going to be exhibited anywhere else. And that's where people who know me and would love to have some of my work can buy it, and that works. And I don't think galleries mind that, because they're not going to be exhibited anymore anywhere else. And you're not really you're selling them, you're not undercutting other artists by doing that. You're just getting rid of work instead of throwing it away.
Right. Do you sell prints of your work too?
No, I've never done prints. For me, it's a lot of work. You have to have really good photography. And I kind of have a feeling that if there's a lot of prints available, then people will buy prints and they won't buy any of my paintings.
Right. Yeah.
And I've even stopped doing cards, because I wasn't, I couldn't charge enough to make enough money on them to make it worth it. It's just more work, things like that. And one more thing to keep you away from your easel, selling prints. And you have to pretty much hire a professional photographer, which is really expensive. So it's just, what you can get for them isn't even paid for how much work it is to do them. In my opinion. I mean, a lot of people do prints, but to me, I don't like, I just don't.
I just think that the prints are a way that, I hear you about, oh, I'll do, I mean, I have framed postcards before, but like, people who can't afford the art can actually afford a print. And but I understand that, you know, then they'll just buy the print. I've had people print off my website and
Oh, yeah.
they don't care that it's a little fuzzy because they didn't have to pay for it. I'm like, you just told me you ripped me off.
Well, it's illegal to do that. You own the copyright to your
know,
work.
I
And it's
know. I
illegal to take people's, that's what I have, don't even, we're not going to talk about AI because then I will start to show hysteria about, you know, unattributed artwork. Because of their database, they just collect work from all these artists and nobody's attributed, and they put it into a database for, you know, so someone can say, I want to make a painting of a dog. And so they compile, you know, thousands of paintings of dogs and come up with something, you know, a yellow dog, a red dog, you know, it's just, I don't want to see, I already got it started talking about that. I'm not going to talk about AI anymore. It just makes me it's hard enough to be an artist without people taking your images and things like that and not giving you any credit for them. I mean, I had paintings in that movie and I didn't really get a whole lot of money for them, but what they did was they didn't want to, it was too expensive for them for me to ship the paintings. They didn't want to buy the paintings and to ship them to it. The movie was being shot in upstate New York. And so they didn't want to pay for that. So what they did was they made prints of the images I gave them and then they send them all back to me at the end. But so I didn't get paid a whole lot for that, but I thought it would be good exposure, except the movie kind of bombed. It was not you know, I was thinking, oh, why can't I have a period piece, a Jane Austen, you know? And it was billed as a horror movie. It was more of a psychological thriller, but it didn't do very well because horror fans didn't think it was horrible enough. And, you know, it just wasn't marketed that well, but it was an experience. It was a learning experience. And, you know, we had to go through all kinds of legal paperwork because to make sure that I retained the images, you know, ownership of the images, and they had my permission to use them in the movie and all kinds of stuff. It's on Netflix if you ever wanted to see the movie. I thought it was a pretty good movie, but it didn't do well. But yeah, that was a real learning experience to do that. And I thought, well, maybe it'll bring, I don't know, people will notice it and it might bring, you know, you never know what's going to come from people seeing your paintings. So I figure, well, they're doing, you know, they're not doing me any good in the closet. So you know, why not just.
I'm sure this goes along with what you were saying almost of like volunteering, but like I've had many times during my career, would you like to donate a piece of your art for this blah blah blah, because you know it'll be good exposure and it might bring you some business down the line. And you know, like after a while I was like, no, get the dentist to give you dental time. You know, I mean, I was like, I can't do that anymore. I get so irritated.
I donate to a few things a year. Usually like Burlington City Arts, if they ask me for their art auction, I always do because I've made a lot of money from them and I feel it's, you know, important. And other places I'll do 2 or 3 a year, but I've never had anybody contact me afterwards and buy a painting from when they saw an auction. That's never happened.
I know.
Some charity things, they will give you a percentage. You know, they offer you can either donate the whole price or you can ask for 20% or something like that, or 30%. And that's nice. So at least you get something, but
yeah.
I had a question. I was wondering how much you paint like from life, like go outside and paint a landscape versus from a photo.
I used to go out a lot more than I do now. I think it's important to paint outside or paint from life if you're painting, you know, paintings of the object, you know, still lifes even. But being outside, that's where it's important to me because that's where I see what things look like. That's where I can tell what stuff looks like. You know, you can tell what light does and you can see the reality of colors. Photographs distort, they foreshorten the image. You know, if you're doing a long scene of a marshland, it just collapses it up so you can't really and things like that. And it also makes shadows a lot darker than. So if you go outside and paint, you understand that the shadow isn't black, it's colors. Those are colors. And so this past summer, of course, was not a very good summer for painting outside. It was either hot or it was smoky or it was raining. And so I really haven't gotten out a lot. I probably got out about 4 or 5 times. And I probably try and get out in fall. I don't go outside in the winter. I'm just not one of those hardcore people that paint in the snow. But so I try to I have a painter that's been kind of a mentor for me for a few years now. Charlie Hunter is his name, and he's down in Bellows Falls, and and he just insists that you draw. And he said, so if you're going to work from painting, do a drawing and paint from the drawing. You can use the photo for color references, or if you want to get a barn correctly, but paint from your drawing, because it's really more important that you have it, that you're looking at that. So that involves, you have to have some memory of what the scene looked like, or what it was. What are you trying to show? Why did you decide to paint this? That's a big question for me. Why, what was it about this that made you decide to paint it? What, was it the light on the shadows? Was it, just the feeling? Some of them are very nostalgic. They remind me of things from my childhood, places from my childhood, especially things, the water and the shorelines and things like that. And so I try to make that foremost in my mind. What's the story? Again, what's the story? What's the story you're trying to tell? But he is, he just insists, okay, if you're going to try not to use your iPad for painting, which is very handy to use, but, draw it first. And then, sometimes if I want to get colors accurately, one little trick I have is, I don't know if I have any right around here. Oh, look, I have, I take an index card. If I have a photograph, I take an index card and I punch a hole in it, and I put it on the part of the color that I'm trying to mix. Because when colors are next to each other, they don't look, if you're looking at a photo of something and the colors are next, they change in relationship to what the color they're next to is. It's color theory is crazy, but color only exists in relation to the color it's next to, which blows my mind. And it's like quantum theory. I don't like, but that it really helps me get more accurate colors, because when they're next to another color and you're trying to mix that color, you can be off by quite a bit, because the color it's next to changes it so much. You've probably seen those things of, the pictures of, a blue square with an orange square in the middle, and the colors vibrate off each other because they're complementary, that kind of thing. But if you put a blue square and a green square, it looks completely different. It looks like a completely different color. So so that's one of the things. I forget what your question was. I probably didn't answer it very well, but
it was just how often you paint from a photo versus from life.
I'm painting more and more in the studio. Part of it is just because I'm older and I don't like dragging stuff around as much anymore. But I do try and get out as much as possible, at least, to see things. But any large paintings I do in the studio, but I do them from studies. A lot of times, if I can do a little quick study somewhere, I'll bring that home and try it. It's tricky to make small things big on canvas. It just translates. That's a really hard trick, and I'm not always very successful with it. So I usually end up changing the big painting quite a bit to make it interesting, to make it feel better or something. I don't know, if you do painting, it's just like, I don't know, it's just how I feel about it. Just I get the feeling there's a curve there that bothers me, so I got to get rid of that curve, things like that. A lot of it is gut feeling, but yeah.
That in the first painting that you showed us, it was really amazing. It looked like watercolor to me because the trees were so blended, kind of in a way. I just thought was acrylic.
No, it's oil. I paint.
Oil, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I paint fairly thin, and that used to really bother me because I thought, oh, this should have more paint on it. There's, I don't know, people expect more paint. I don't know what I was thinking about that, but it was a critical thing. but I like painting thin and well, I paint thick too. Sometimes the foregrounds, I usually use thicker paint because it comes forward a little bit better for depth things. But, and one of the things is going back to this, you should look up Charlie Hunter because you'll be amazed at his paintings. I learned from him is, I used to try and make colors lighter and lighter to make them illuminated, like there was light coming through. And what I learned from him is if you put paint on it and rub it off, then it looks like there's light coming through. It's just a trick. I don't know, but it works. And that's how he calls it reductive painting, and that's how he paints. And I cringe because I think if my husband knew how much paint I was throwing in the wastebasket because I put it on and rub it off,
Right.
he wouldn't like that. He would cry. But yeah, so that's a technique I use because I like paint. And I remember Charlie Hunter saying, I said, Charlie, I feel like I don't use enough paint. A lot of painters I know use tons, very thick paint. And I like their paintings, but I don't know. I just like the looks of thin paint too, like a wash kind of thing. But he just said, the heck with them. Who cares? You can, it's your painting. You can have thin paint. You can have thick paint. It doesn't matter, which is true, which is really true.
So we have just a few minutes left, so we probably have time for one more question if anyone has anything else they'd like to ask. Or comments.
Maybe comments, yes.
What do you think? I think Holbein has a oil paint out there. What kind of paints do you use?
Oh, I use a combination. Well, like I said before, I use the most expensive paints I can afford. I use a lot of Williamsburg paint, which is kind of pricey, but now all paint is all expensive. But I find it has a lot more pigment in it, so it lasts a lot longer. I don't need so much of it. And Gamblin I use a lot of, and M. Graham I use because their paints are mixed with safflower oil, I think. And I'm trying to get solvents out of my studio because I know, I use mineral, or I've been using odorless mineral spirits, but you're still breathing it in, even if you can't smell it. And so I've switched over I clean my brushes with walnut oil now. As I'm painting, if I want to paint, I clean them with that, and then I wash them afterwards with soap. And that seems to work just as well as solvents. Sometimes if you're doing a wash, you have to use the solvents because that's just the way it is. But I try as much as I can not to use anything terribly toxic anymore in the studio.
Susan, do you know when you're going to do another, how did you refer to it, like a closeout?
Oh, my
pieces?
retired paintings.
Yes, retired painting.
I don't know yet. I was planning one for June, and then the place where I exhibit in June it's here on Alamont. The woman that owns the barn, the art barn, her partner is very ill, and so she wasn't able. She lives in Princeton in the winter. She wasn't able to come this year, so the barn wasn't open, and I wasn't able to do it. But I think, I either do it that way or I do it as a town. We have a townwide tag sale in Alamont every I think it's in May or June.
Oh.
And do it that way and just have them.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So I usually put it up on my website, but it's a nice thing to do. I had one woman who's a friend on Alamont come, and she just stopped by with her son, and there was a painting of a barn in Alberg, and she said, and she called her son over barn, and she said, look, that's my parents' farm. And I said, oh, so it was marked down quite a bit. And she turns to him and she goes, should I buy it, Martin? And he's like, yes, of course you have to buy. But it was really nice that I could have this woman have something that meaningful. I had no idea that was her family home, that was her family barn. And it just really was. I had another woman who works in an office building, and she said, I look out at a brick wall, and so I'm going to put all your paintings over the window of my office so that I can look at those and that just makes you feel better. It's just like you're really help, doing something nice for people. So,
Sure, sure. I'll keep a lookout on your website.
okay, yeah, I would have it on. I've got to do an web update on my website right now. It's like languishing a little bit.
Well, it's 1 o'clock now. So I want to say thank you everyone for coming, especially Susan. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with us today and for sharing your story and your art. Is there anywhere in particular you'd like to point us to see more of or to purchase your work? Any shows you have coming up? Anything
Right
like-
now, I have work at the Bryan Gallery in Jeffersonville, and they're having a really, you should just go to this. It's a Land and Light. It's called the art show, and it's in the fall. And I just brought paintings up to, I think it starts in September sometime. September 14th, I think, is the opening. And it's a jury show, and there's artists from all over the country, and it's really just not even just to see my paintings. It's always a really, really good art show. It's in Jeffersonville on Main Street. And also they just opened a satellite gallery in Stowe, which I'm really excited about because that gets a lot of traffic. And I've already sold 4 paintings at that gallery. So that's really worked well. So those are the 2 places right now I would suggest. But if you can get to Jeffersonville to that Land and Light show at the Bryan Memorial
Bryan Gallery. Okay.
Yeah, it's an amazing show. There's some amazing artists in that show.
That's really cool. Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And thank
Thank
you
you,
all for your
Susan.
questions. This has been a lot of fun for me. So it's nice to talk about stuff. And I urge you to talk with other artists. That's like the most valuable thing is you talking to other, make a community for yourselves of other artists to talk with and support each other. It's really, really important. It's very helpful. But thank you all. This has been really great. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
So much.